Imagine standing in the absolute center of a scorched, endless wasteland where the sun feels like a physical weight on your shoulders. The temperature on the surface is a blistering 50 degrees Celsius, hot enough to crack the earth and boil the water in your engine. Looking around, there are no trees, no buildings, and no signs of life for hundreds of kilometers in any direction. To a passing traveler, this looks like the surface of Mars, completely devoid of any human presence or civilization. But if you look closer, you will notice strange vertical shafts plunging straight down into the solid red bedrock. Beneath your feet, hidden away from the lethal solar radiation, an entire thriving city is secretly breathing in the dark. Down here, people are sleeping in carved stone bedrooms, drinking coffee in subterranean cafes, and praying in underground churches. They are bound to this buried existence by a fierce obsession with a gemstone that is rarer and more elusive than diamonds. This is Coober Pedy, the Opal capital of the world, and perhaps the most unusual human settlement on the planet. We are here to answer one deeply philosophical question. Why would thousands of people choose to live like moles in the harshest desert on Earth? To truly understand the madness of building a city here, you must first comprehend the sheer, crushing scale of its isolation. This town sits squarely in the middle of South Australia, surrounded by a geographic emptiness that defies human logic. There is no natural water source, no fertile soil for crops, and no natural shelter from the screaming desert winds. The nearest major city is an exhausting 850 kilometers away, a brutally long drive through nothingness. The landscape is so hostile and alien that space agencies use these exact plains to test their Mars exploration rovers. From above, the town looks like a giant golf course built by lunatics, covered in millions of strange conical dirt mounds. These mounds are the tailings from over a century of desperate men drilling deep into the earth in search of a miracle. It is a place where nature actively tries to expel you, where every element seems perfectly designed to make human life impossible. The silence out here is not peaceful. It is heavy, dense, and constantly reminding you of how profoundly alone you are. Yet, despite every warning the environment gives, roughly 2,000 stubborn souls have decided that this is their forever home. The landscape of Coober Pedy has its own unique, intimidating personality that dictates every single rule of survival. The ground is baked into a hardened crust, shimmering under a heat haze that distorts the horizon into a watery illusion. There is a stark, brutal beauty to the way the crimson dirt contrasts with the painfully bright, cloudless blue sky. When the wind picks up, it does not bring relief, but instead carries a blinding, suffocating storm of abrasive red sand. Vegetation is so scarce that the first tree ever planted in the town was actually welded together out of scrap iron. Rain is a mythological event here, and when it finally does fall, the parched earth swallows it instantly without a trace. The sun acts as an unforgiving dictator, forcing everyone into hiding the moment it reaches its peak in the afternoon sky. But as evening approaches, the angry red dirt transforms into a soft, glowing canvas of violet and burning orange hues. Once the sun finally sets, the temperature plummets rapidly, reminding you that deserts are fundamentally lands of extreme extremes. It is a landscape that demands total submission, forcing humans to adapt to its terms rather than trying to conquer it. When you look at the statistics of Coober Pedy, the numbers sound less like facts and more like bizarre riddles. This single, isolated patch of dirt produces over 70% of the entire global supply of precious gem opals. There are more than 250,000 abandoned mine shafts scattered around the town, hiding like deadly traps. You are statistically more likely to die falling down a forgotten hole here than you are to get in a car accident. Nearly 80% of the local population lives entirely underground in homes they refer to as dugouts. To keep cool, they sleep beneath 3 to 5 meters of solid sandstone, where the temperature stays a perfect 23 degrees. Despite its tiny population, the residents hail from over 45 different nationalities, drawn together by the universal language of gambling. Water is so expensive that it must be pumped from an underground source 25 kilometers away and heavily processed. There are no traffic lights, no tall buildings, and almost no paved roads branching out from the main central strip. It is a town completely built on a contradiction, living in the dirt in order to become unimaginably wealthy. Getting to this subterranean refuge is a grueling psychological test that filters out anyone without serious determination. You must drive for hours along the Stewart Highway, a mesmerizingly straight ribbon of asphalt cutting through an ocean of dust. The scenery almost never changes, inducing a dangerous highway hypnosis that makes drivers lose all track of time and distance. The only things you encounter are massive road trains, giant trucks pulling 3 trailers, roaring past like mechanical beasts. Burned-out cars dot the roadside, serving as grim monuments to those who underestimated the harshness of this brutal terrain. Eventually, out of the shimmering heat haze, bizarre white mounds begin to appear on the horizon like strange alien anthills. You pass a rusted sign welcoming you to the town, flanked by old mining drills that look like weapons of war. The town center itself looks chaotic and improvised, a messy collection of industrial equipment and dust-covered off-road vehicles. There is no grand entrance to the real city. You simply find a doorway carved into a hillside and step into the shadows. The moment you cross the threshold into the rock, the screaming wind stops, the heat vanishes, and the silence embraces you. The first person you meet underground is likely to be covered in a fine layer of pale dust, a permanent uniform here. He offers you a cup of coffee in a kitchen, carved entirely out of solid rock. His movements slow and incredibly deliberate. His face is deeply lined by the harsh sun, but his eyes carry a sharp, optimistic glint that every true miner possesses. He taps the living room wall, explaining casually that he found a $1,000 gemstone right where his television now sits. There is no sense of rushing in his demeanor. Time moves differently when you spend your life buried in the earth. He speaks with a thick, gravelly voice, telling wild stories of fortunes made overnight and lost just as quickly. You notice his tools resting in the corner, heavy and brutal, a reminder of the immense physical labor required to exist here. Despite the rugged exterior, his subterranean home is meticulously clean, cozy, and surprisingly free of any claustrophobic feeling. He represents the ultimate Coober Pedy archetype, fiercely independent, slightly eccentric, and completely immune to the opinions of the outside world. It becomes immediately clear that to survive in this environment, you must have a spirit as hard as the rock itself. The town does not need physical walls or border checkpoints to keep the modern world out, because geography does the job perfectly. The sheer vastness of the surrounding outback acts as an impenetrable fortress, filtering out casual tourists and faint-hearted travelers. You cannot simply stumble upon this place by accident. Every single person who arrives here has made a deliberate, calculated choice. Supplies must be trucked in across hundreds of kilometers or flown in on small, vulnerable aircraft, navigating unpredictable desert thermals. When something breaks down here, you cannot wait for an external repairman. You must figure out how to fix it yourself immediately. This isolation has bred a culture of extreme self-reliance, where everyone is part engineer, part survivalist, and part improviser. The harsh borders dictate a simple rule: if you do not respect the environment, it will quickly and quietly erase you. But within these invisible walls, there is a profound freedom from the strict rules and societal judgments of major global cities. There are no noise complaints, no homeowners associations, and nobody telling you how you are supposed to live your life. The isolation is not a prison for these people. It is the ultimate sanctuary from a world they happily left behind. Mornings in a subterranean home begin strangely, because without natural sunlight streaming in, there is no visual cue to wake up. You rely entirely on the digital clock to tell you it is dawn, reaching out to switch on a warm bedside lamp. The ritual begins with brewing coffee in a modern, fully equipped kitchen that just happens to be encased in solid sandstone. Stepping out of the dugout is a sensory shock, like walking from a quiet, cool cave directly into a blasting furnace. Even at 8 in the morning, the sun is already aggressively bright, signaling the narrow window of time for surface chores. Residents quickly sweep the perpetual red dust off their porches, a futile battle against an environment that constantly encroaches. The town soon wakes up to the grinding roar of heavy machinery as massive drills are fired up for the day's work. Miners lace up heavy boots and grab their headlamps, preparing to descend back into the darkness where they feel most comfortable. A few locals gather at the tiny surface bakery, exchanging quiet nods and rumors about who might have hit a rich vein. By 10 o'clock, the heat haze begins to shimmer on the dirt roads, and the surface world is abandoned once again. In a place where absolutely nothing grows naturally in the soil, getting fresh food is an incredibly complex logistical puzzle. Every piece of fruit, every vegetable, and every carton of milk must survive a brutal 1,000-kilometer journey inside refrigerated transport trucks. The local supermarket is a vital lifeline, its shelves stocked with goods that cost significantly more due to the massive freight charges. Finding a crisp, fresh apple feels like a minor miracle, an exotic luxury imported into a world of dry, red dirt. Residents rely heavily on frozen meats and canned goods, hoarding non-perishables just in case a flash flood cuts off the highway. There is no foraging here, no casual backyard gardens, and no local farming to supplement the town's highly dependent food supply. Subterranean homes often feature massive, naturally cool pantries carved deep into the rock, specifically designed for long-term food storage. Cooking is done on modern electric or gas stoves, keeping the heat manageable inside the carefully controlled climate of the dugouts. Meals are simple, hearty, and highly practical, designed to fuel bodies that endure grueling physical labor in the mines. Every bite eaten in this town is a reminder of their fragile connection to the distant, fertile world they left behind. Because traditional livestock struggles to survive in this barren environment, the locals sometimes turn to the only abundant meat available: kangaroo. Kangaroo meat is incredibly lean, gamey, and perfectly adapted to the outback, often grilled over open flames during cool desert evenings. The Outback barbecue is less about culinary refinement and more about communal survival, sharing whatever protein is available that week. Hearty, thick stews are also a staple, slow-cooked for hours to tenderize tough cuts of meat and stretch expensive imported vegetables. A heavy, dense bread known as damper is frequently baked in the ashes of a campfire, a tradition inherited from early explorers. Hydration is a matter of life and death, but at the end of a shift, the preferred local beverage is always ice-cold beer. The contrast of a freezing cold drink inside a subterranean pub after 10 hours in the dust is a deeply sacred ritual. Due to the mix of European immigrants, you might surprisingly find authentic Greek moussaka or Serbian cevapi in a desert kitchen. This bizarre fusion of outback survival food and rich European culinary tradition creates a diet unlike anywhere else on the continent. It is a cuisine forged by necessity, isolation, and the stubborn desire to maintain a taste of home in the dirt. The economy of Coober Pedy is entirely dependent on one single, exhausting, and highly unpredictable industry: opal mining. Every day, hundreds of independent miners descend into the dark, armed with massive drills, explosives, and reckless optimism. Working conditions are terrifyingly claustrophobic, surrounded by thousands of tons of unstable rock that could collapse at any moment. They spend hours running their hands along the dusty walls, shining black lights to catch the faint, colorful glow of hidden gems. Huge industrial vacuums suck the excavated dirt up to the surface, creating those massive conical mounds that define the landscape. It is a grueling, physically punishing job that breaks bodies down, leaving men permanently covered in a layer of fine white dust. There are no guaranteed paychecks here. A miner might dig for 5 straight years and find absolutely nothing of value. But the next day, one lucky strike could unearth a pocket of opals worth millions of dollars, changing their life overnight. Because of this lottery mentality, almost everyone is an independent contractor, refusing to work for a boss or a corporation. This fierce independence means you keep what you find, but you also bear the entire crushing weight of your own failures. Outsiders see mining as an adventure, but the locals know that their daily routine is constantly teetering on the edge of fatal tragedy. The sandstone above their heads can shift without warning, burying a man alive in total darkness before he can even scream. There is also the ever-present danger of accidentally breaking into an abandoned, unmapped mine shaft from 50 years ago. Falling down one of the millions of unmarked holes on the surface is a completely rational fear that parents instill in their children. Even the air itself is an enemy. Breathing in the fine silica dust for decades silently destroys the lungs of the oldest miners. Explosives are used casually and frequently, meaning a single miscalculation with a fuse can blow a tunnel completely apart. Because the town is so small, when a siren echoes through the streets, everyone immediately stops to wonder who has been hurt. There is a grim, unspoken understanding that the earth demands a blood sacrifice in exchange for its hidden, glowing treasures. Almost every veteran miner carries deep physical scars, silent monuments to the incredibly violent nature of their chosen profession. They respect the rock because they know that eventually the rock always wins. Growing up in Coober Pedy is a wildly unusual experience, completely disconnected from the typical suburban childhood. There are no green parks, no tall trees to climb, and definitely no soft, grassy lawns to run barefoot across. Children quickly learn that the sun is dangerous, and playing outside during the long summer afternoons is strictly forbidden. Instead, their playgrounds are massive underground rooms, where they ride bicycles down long, echoing subterranean hallways. From a very young age, they are taught how to spot raw opal in the dirt, turning gem hunting into a common childhood game. They are fiercely educated on the lethal dangers of wandering out into the desert alone, learning to fear the unmarked mine shafts. When they do play sports on the surface, it happens on fields made entirely of hard, red gravel, completely devoid of grass. Some wealthier families have actually carved entire swimming pools into the rock beneath their homes to entertain the kids. As they grow into teenagers, the extreme isolation begins to feel less like a massive playground and more like a frustrating cage. They are constantly forced to imagine what a normal, green, crowded world looks like beyond the endless horizon of dust. Providing an education in a town located hundreds of kilometers from civilization requires immense dedication and incredibly stubborn teachers. The local area school caters to everyone from tiny kindergarteners all the way up to graduating high school seniors. Walking into a classroom, you see a striking mix of cultures representing the children of immigrants from dozens of different nations. Resources are tight, and teachers often have to act as counselors, social workers, and friends to students living in extreme isolation. For families living even further out in the deep outback, attending a physical school is impossible due to the massive distances. These kids rely on the school of the air, attending virtual classes via satellite internet from isolated cattle stations. Their classmates are just voices on a speaker, separated by thousands of square kilometers of empty, scorched earth. When students reach the end of high school, they face a brutal reality. There is no university anywhere near this town. To continue their education, they must pack their bags, leave their subterranean homes, and move to a massive coastal city alone. It is a bittersweet moment for parents, realizing that successfully educating their children often means saying goodbye to them forever. Building a modern society in a place with no water, extreme heat, and fragile ground requires a quiet miracle of engineering. The town's entire water supply relies on an underground aquifer located 25 kilometers away, pumped through a massive pipeline because diesel fuel is incredibly expensive to transport. The town has embraced renewable energy out of pure pragmatic necessity. Huge solar farms and massive wind turbines now generate a significant portion of the town's electricity, standing like silent metal giants. Wiring an underground city is a nightmare, requiring electricians to drill specifically targeted holes through meters of solid rock just to run cables. While the dugouts stay naturally cool, surface businesses require heavy-duty air conditioning units that fight a constant war against the dust. The supply chain is a fragile thread. If heavy rains flood the distant Stewart Highway, the town is completely cut off from food and fuel. Maintenance is never-ending, as the abrasive red sand finds its way into engines, gears, and electronics, slowly destroying everything it touches. A lone communication tower ensures they have internet and cell service, tethering this ancient, dusty lifestyle to the digital 21st century. When you look at Coober Pedy glowing in the dark, you realize it is a defiant, mechanical middle finger to the harshness of nature. Inside these ancient-looking caves, you will find a bizarre collision between primitive living and highly advanced modern luxury. A miner might spend 10 hours covered in ancient dirt only to come home and trade cryptocurrency on a high-speed satellite internet connection. In kitchens that look like they belong in the Stone Age, you will find expensive Italian espresso machines and high-end stainless steel refrigerators. You can even spot an electric vehicle charging outside a local motel covered in a thick layer of red outback dust. The younger generation uses social media to document their subterranean lives, broadcasting their extreme isolation to millions of followers globally. Online shopping has completely revolutionized survival here, allowing residents to order obscure parts and luxuries that the local store could never stock. It is incredibly surreal to see someone wearing a virtual reality headset while sitting inside a room carved out with dynamite. The town is constantly caught between its rugged, lawless mining history and the inescapable creep of modern technological convenience. Some of the older, hardened miners fiercely resist this change, preferring the simple, unplugged silence of the deep underground. But the modern world is relentless, slowly illuminating the dark corners of the outback with the cold, blue light of glowing screens. In Coober Pedy, you do not just observe the weather. You live in constant, paranoid submission to its violent mood swings. During the brutal summer months, the true terror is not just the heat, but the sudden, apocalyptic dust storms that swallow the horizon. A solid wall of red dirt hundreds of meters high rolls across the plains, turning the midday sky completely black within minutes. The abrasive sand rips through the air, forcing everyone to instantly retreat underground and seal their heavy metal doors tight. When the storm finally passes, everything on the surface is coated in a thick, suffocating layer of crimson powder that takes days to clean. Conversely, when the rare monsoon rains actually hit, the baked, hardened earth cannot absorb the water, creating instant, lethal flash floods. The water turns the dusty roads into impassable rivers of thick, sticky mud, isolating the town from the rest of the continent. The weather here does not nurture life. It acts as an aggressive warden, constantly testing the limits of human endurance. Yet, the locals monitor the skies with a strange reverence, accepting the chaos as the unavoidable price of living in the outback. When the skies finally clear, the atmosphere becomes perfectly transparent, revealing a blanket of stars so bright they cast shadows on the ground. When you pack 2,000 stubborn outcasts into a hostile desert, the resulting community is incredibly tight-knit and fiercely loyal. Out here, neighbors do not just borrow sugar, they pull your truck out of the mud and share their precious water reserves during emergencies. Because almost everyone arrived here escaping something else, a bad past, a boring city, or a failed career. Nobody asks too many personal questions. There is a powerful, unspoken rule of mutual survival. You can hate your neighbor, but if their mine collapses, you dig them out. The local underground pub is the great equalizer, where millionaires in dirty clothes drink cheap beer next to men completely broke. Crime is handled internally through community pressure, and a handshake still holds more legal weight than a signed corporate contract. They bond over their shared suffering, knowing that no outsider could ever truly understand the specific madness of living underground. During town meetings or community barbecues, you hear a chaotic symphony of Greek, Serbian, Italian, and Australian accents blending together. This extreme isolation strips away superficial societal divisions, forcing people to rely on the absolute core of human decency. They are a family of misfits, united by the red dirt, the oppressive heat, and their collective refusal to live normal lives. If you ask a resident what makes them proud, they will not mention national politics, famous celebrities, or historical monuments. They are fiercely, almost aggressively proud of their raw ability to endure an environment that would break a normal person in days. They take immense pride in the fact that they literally carved their homes out of solid bedrock with their own two hands. There is no relying on fancy architects or massive construction firms. If you want a new bedroom, you grab a drill and blast it yourself. They view city dwellers with a mix of pity and mild contempt, viewing them as soft and utterly dependent on fragile modern systems. They wear their dust-stained clothes and calloused hands like badges of honor, proof that they have survived another brutal season in the outback. The town celebrates its gritty, lawless history, deeply proud of the wild pioneers who first dragged themselves into this waterless hellscape. And, of course, they are proud of the stones, knowing that the most beautiful opals worn by royalty globally were pulled from their specific dirt. Their identity is entirely wrapped up in resilience, independence, and a stubborn refusal to be defeated by the Earth. They are not just surviving in Coober Pedy, they are claiming victory over the most hostile continent on the planet. Meet John, a man whose face looks exactly like the cracked landscape he has inhabited for the last 45 years. He arrived here as a young man planning to stay for just 6 months, hoping to make a quick fortune and return to the coast. He did find his fortune, striking a massive vein of opal in the 1980s that made him instantly incredibly wealthy. He could have easily packed his bags, bought a massive mansion by the beach, and never looked at red dirt again. But instead, he built a sprawling subterranean mansion right here and quietly continued to drill into the earth every single day. When asked why he never left, he simply shrugs and says that the quiet of the underground has permanently ruined him for city noise. He is addicted to the absolute freedom of the Outback, where no one cares about his bank account or his dusty boots. He finds the crowded streets, the traffic, and the superficial worries of the modern coastal world completely exhausting and meaningless. The hunt for opals is no longer about the money. It is a spiritual compulsion, a deep, quiet dialogue between him and the earth. He is a man who was swallowed by the desert decades ago and eventually decided he never wanted to be spat back out. On the opposite end of the spectrum is Sarah, who spent her entire childhood plotting her desperate escape from this dusty prison. The moment she finished high school, she fled to Melbourne, chasing the bright lights, the green trees, and the fast-paced corporate life. For 10 years, she wore business suits, drank expensive lattes, and successfully assimilated into the modern urban machine. But despite the career success and the comfortable apartment, she found the city incredibly lonely, loud, and suffocatingly stressful. She realized that living surrounded by millions of strangers felt far more isolating than living in a town of 2,000 outcasts. So, she packed her bags, quit her job, and drove the 1,000 kilometers back into the searing heat of the Outback. The moment she stepped out of the car and tasted the dry, metallic dust in the air, her profound anxiety finally vanished. She moved back into a dugout, trading her skyscraper office for a dark, silent room encased in 50 million years of solid sandstone. She missed the brutal honesty of the locals, the total lack of pretension, and the heavy, comforting blanket of the underground silence. She had to leave the edge of the world to realize that the edge was the only place she actually belonged. When tourists arrive in Coober Pedy, they often step off their air-conditioned buses, expecting a polished, romanticized movie set. They are immediately shocked by the sheer aesthetic chaos of the town, recoiling at the rusted machinery and the lack of green spaces. They complain relentlessly about the oppressive heat, the aggressive flies, and the fine red dust that instantly ruins their clean white shoes. Many outsiders view the subterranean lifestyle not as an engineering marvel, but as something incredibly primitive, terrifying, and deeply depressing. They completely misunderstand the core appeal of the town, viewing it through the narrow, comfortable lens of modern suburban standards. The locals watch these fleeting visitors with a mixture of quiet amusement and mild irritation, knowing they will be gone by tomorrow. Outsiders see the isolation as a terrible curse, completely failing to realize that for the residents, the isolation is the primary luxury. Tourists think the people here are trapped by poverty or circumstance, blind to the fact that almost everyone is here by fierce, deliberate choice. The media often portrays them as crazy mole people, ignoring the deep intelligence and resilience required to sustain this hidden society. The town does not care about bad reviews. It remains perfectly content being deeply misunderstood by a soft, frantic world. The economy of Coober Pedy operates on a shadow system that completely baffles tax agents and formal financial institutions. While the local supermarket takes credit cards, the true currency of the deep underground is still raw, unpolished opal. Massive, life-changing transactions often occur in hushed tones inside dark, dusty pubs, entirely off the official government record. A miner might buy a second-hand truck or a piece of heavy drilling equipment using a handful of colorful stones pulled from his pocket. This creates a chaotic boom-and-bust cycle where the town experiences sudden waves of extreme wealth, followed by agonizing, desperate droughts. Debts are sometimes carried for years on pure trust, waiting patiently for a miner to finally hit a lucrative hidden vein. The global price of opals fluctuates wildly based on international fashion trends, leaving the town completely at the mercy of distant markets. When the price drops, the town tightens its belt, returning to basic survival mode and repairing ancient machinery instead of buying new. Secrecy is a massive part of the economy. If you find a major gem pocket, you lie about it to avoid thieves and government inspectors. It is an intensely capitalist frontier town operating with the raw, unregulated energy of an 18th century gold rush. When you live 800 kilometers from a major city, the fragility of the human body becomes an incredibly terrifying reality. The town has a small, dedicated hospital, but it is severely under-equipped to handle massive trauma or complex, life-threatening surgeries. If a miner is crushed by a rockfall or suffers a severe heart attack, their survival relies entirely on the Royal Flying Doctor Service. These aerial medics must fly hours across the desert, attempting to stabilize critical patients while battling intense outback turbulence. For pregnant women, giving birth in the town is considered too risky, forcing them to relocate to the city weeks before their due date. Chronic health issues are deeply amplified by the environment. Decades of breathing silica, dust leaves many older miners permanently struggling for oxygen. Getting specialized medication can take days, requiring residents to plan their health needs with military-level precision. There is a stoic, dangerous culture of ignoring pain among the miners, refusing to seek help until a medical issue becomes absolutely catastrophic. The doctors who work here are an elite, exhausted breed, acting as surgeons, therapists, and emergency responders all at once. Every time the medical plane takes off into the dark sky, the town holds its breath, reminded of exactly how far from safety they really are. Physical survival in Coober Pedy is difficult, but the psychological endurance required to live here is the true hidden filter. The sensory deprivation of living underground can slowly distort your mind, trapping you in a silent, unchanging environment without natural light. Some people suffer from severe cabin fever, feeling the millions of tons of rock above them pressing down on their sanity. Above ground, the vast, featureless horizon can trigger a bizarre form of agoraphobia, where the sheer emptiness becomes mentally crushing. The gambling nature of opal mining breeds a toxic, addictive hope, the constant belief that the next swing of the pickaxe will bring millions. This relentless, crushing pressure leads some residents down dark paths of substance abuse, seeking artificial escape from the heavy silence. Mental health resources are incredibly scarce, leaving people to fight their demons completely alone in the dark. Those who thrive here have developed a powerful, impenetrable mental fortress, finding profound peace in the absolute stillness. They use the isolation not as a place to hide from the world, but as a blank canvas to confront and understand themselves. Living at the edge of the world forces you to become completely comfortable with the person you are when nobody else is watching. For a century, Coober Pedy was the Wild West, but the slow, inevitable march of modern corporatization is finally arriving at their doorstep. Huge, multinational mining companies are beginning to eye the region, equipped with satellites, ground-penetrating radar, and massive financial backing. The independent, lone wolf miner cannot possibly compete with massive open-pit operations that can strip an entire landscape in a week. Government regulations and strict safety codes are slowly tightening like a noose, making it incredibly difficult for individual prospectors to legally operate. The town is deeply divided. Some welcome the stable jobs and improved infrastructure, while others see it as the death of their freedom. Paved roads and modern conveniences are slowly erasing the gritty, frontier aesthetic that defined the town's harsh identity for decades. The old dugouts, carved by hand with pickaxes, are being replaced by hyper-modern subterranean homes built by professional engineering firms. The hardened veterans feel the soul of the town slipping away, replaced by an increasingly sterile, regulated, and sanitized version of the Outback. They fear that Coober Pedy will soon stop being a refuge for outcasts and simply become another distant corporate mining camp. The wild, lawless era of the underground city is facing its final sunset, slowly suffocated by the modern world it tried so hard to escape. As the town modernizes, the ancient, almost mystical art of reading the earth to find opals is slowly fading into history. The oldest miners do not use ground-penetrating radar. They smell the dirt, feel the moisture in the rock, and listen to the echoes. They possess a deeply intuitive, unspoken connection to the geological layers, a skill forged through 50 years of trial and error. This knowledge is rarely written down. It is passed through quiet conversations in dark pubs, guarded as fiercely as the gems themselves. But as these hardened veterans grow old and quietly pass away, their irreplaceable mental maps of the underground are buried with them. The new arrivals rely entirely on algorithms, drones, and digital sensors, completely lacking the romantic, visceral connection to the dirt. Without the old masters, thousands of kilometers of hand-dug tunnels are slowly collapsing, erasing the physical history of their incredible labor. The stories of legendary strikes, desperate survival, and wild outback characters are becoming myths, disconnected from the modern reality of the town. The raw, brutal magic of the independent prospector is quietly dying out, leaving behind a town that feels increasingly mechanical and cold. Soon, the idea of a lone man challenging the earth with nothing but a pickaxe and a dream will exist only in museums. For the teenagers currently growing up in the underground city, the future feels like an incredibly heavy, impossible choice. Through their smartphones, they see a vibrant, fast-paced global world filled with green parks, massive concerts, and endless career opportunities. Compared to the digital world, their dusty, isolated hometown feels like an ancient, slow-moving prison that is completely holding them back. They watch their parents' bodies break down from decades of brutal physical labor in the dark, and they want absolutely no part of it. The pressure to leave is overwhelming, driving a massive exodus of youth the moment they receive their high school diplomas. Parents actively encourage this migration, sacrificing their own comfort in the mines specifically so their children will never have to dig. Yet, a small, stubborn minority of the youth feel an undeniable, magnetic pull keeping them tethered to the red dirt. They have the Opal fever in their blood, addicted to the silence, the extreme freedom, and the fierce independence of the Outback. They are trying to reinvent the town, bringing modern technology and fresh energy to the ancient art of underground survival. They stand perfectly balanced on the edge of a knife, torn between abandoning their unique heritage and being buried by it. Living in the hottest, driest part of the continent means that this town is sitting on the absolute front line of global climate change. The heat waves, which were always brutal, are becoming longer, more frequent, and increasingly pushing the limits of human biological survival. Summer days that hit 50 degrees are no longer rare anomalies. They are becoming the terrifying new baseline for the outback. Even the subterranean homes are beginning to struggle as the surface rock absorbs so much relentless solar radiation that the heat slowly penetrates deeper. The distant aquifers that provide the town's entire water supply are under immense pressure, threatening the most vital resource they possess. When the weather does break, it delivers increasingly violent, unpredictable superstorms that tear surface infrastructure to absolute pieces. The locals, normally stubbornly defiant against nature, are beginning to feel a creeping existential dread about the shifting atmospheric patterns. They understand perfectly well that the desert does not negotiate. If the environment becomes just slightly more hostile, survival here becomes mathematically impossible. The town has always operated on the extreme, razor-thin edge of habitability, and that edge is slowly, violently crumbling away. They are watching the sky with genuine fear, wondering how much more heat the red dirt can absorb before it finally evicts them. As mining regulations tighten and opals become harder to find, the town has been forced to embrace a completely new, uncomfortable industry: tourism. Thousands of global visitors now flock to the outback, desperate to take selfies inside the bizarre underground churches and subterranean hotels. This influx of outside money provides a massive, desperately needed economic lifeline for a town struggling to transition away from pure mining. However, this lifeline comes at a heavy cultural cost, creating deep resentment among the fiercely private, independent older generation. The raw, authentic grit of the town is slowly being packaged, sanitized, and sold as a quirky, safe theme park experience. Tourists often treat the locals like bizarre zoo exhibits, wandering onto private property and completely disrespecting the intense reality of outback survival. The hardened prospectors retreat deeper into the shadows, disgusted by the flashing cameras and the superficial, fleeting curiosity of the visitors. The town is caught in a painful paradox. They need the tourists' money to survive, but they despise the world the tourists represent. It is a delicate, uncomfortable dance between preserving their legendary, lawless identity and selling tickets to a hollow imitation of it. They are slowly realizing that opening their hidden, quiet sanctuary to the world might be the very thing that finally destroys it. As the brutal sun finally dips below the horizon, the entire atmosphere of Coober Pedy undergoes a massive, immediate transformation. People begin to emerge from their subterranean homes, blinking into the fading light like nocturnal animals waking up for the day. The oppressive, heavy heat is replaced by a sudden, sharp chill, a stark reminder of the extreme temperature swings of the outback. The evening routine usually begins on a dusty porch, watching the sky cycle through violent shades of orange, purple, and deep indigo. Neighbors gather around fire pits, not for warmth, but for the ancient primal comfort of watching the flames dance in the dark. The local pubs fill up quickly, becoming the buzzing, chaotic social heart of a town that spent the entire day completely isolated. The smell of grilled meat and cheap tobacco drifts through the cool air, masking the metallic, dry scent of the desert dust. There are no city lights to pollute the view, allowing the Milky Way to reveal itself in staggering, terrifying clarity above their heads. By 10 o'clock, the town settles into a deep, profound silence, broken only by the distant, lonely howl of a wandering dingo. They retreat back into the rock, letting the 50 million tons of sandstone above them guarantee a completely silent, undisturbed sleep. If you want to truly understand the soul of this town, you have to witness the sheer chaos of their annual local festival. The Coober Pedy Opal Festival is a bizarre celebration of survival, featuring events that would seem completely insane anywhere else. Miners compete in explosive tossing competitions, testing their strength and accuracy with the very tools they use to tear apart the earth. The parade consists of massive, terrifying drilling machines, completely covered in colorful lights and cheap plastic decorations. There is a profound sense of shared ridiculousness, a collective understanding that they must laugh at the harshness of their environment. A local band plays on a makeshift stage, blending traditional Australian country music with heavy, driving rock and roll. It is during these moments that the deep cultural divisions of the 45 different nationalities completely disappear into the dust. They share food from Greece, Serbia, Italy, and the Outback, eating together under the massive, unbroken canopy of the night sky. When fireworks are launched, they explode over an empty, pitch-black horizon, the brief flashes of light illuminating the endless nothingness. This singular event recharges their spiritual batteries, giving them enough communal warmth to survive another brutal year in the dark. There is a specific time of day, usually right before dawn, when Coober Pedy experiences a silence so absolute it feels physically heavy. If you stand at the edge of the breakaways, looking out over the ancient seabed, you can literally hear your own heartbeat in your ears. There is no rustling of leaves because there are no trees, no hum of distant traffic, and absolutely no movement of any kind. It is a profound, almost aggressive stillness that forces you to confront the sheer insignificance of human existence. In modern cities, people pay thousands of dollars for meditation retreats to find this exact level of complete sensory deprivation. Here, it is free, abundant, and inescapable, a constant reminder that the earth is ancient and largely indifferent to our presence. For many residents, this specific stillness is the primary reason they endure the heat, the dust, and the brutal economic uncertainty. It cleanses the mind of anxiety, stripping away the noise of modern life until only the absolute essentials of survival remain. In this quiet moment, the harsh, ugly red desert suddenly transforms into something deeply spiritual and overwhelmingly beautiful. It is the brief, fleeting reward that the landscape gives to the stubborn people who refuse to be defeated by it. But make no mistake, the privilege of living in this extreme isolation exacts an incredibly heavy toll on those who stay. The physical price is written on the faces of the older miners, their bodies broken down by decades of brutal, unforgiving labor. The emotional price is paid in separation, watching children leave for the city, knowing they will likely never move back home. There is the quiet grief of missing out on the normal milestones of life, weddings, graduations, and family reunions happening hundreds of kilometers away. Financially, the town operates on a terrifying knife edge, completely dependent on a gemstone market they cannot control and a water supply they cannot guarantee. Many people who arrived chasing a quick fortune are now completely trapped here, lacking the funds to afford a home anywhere else. The environmental price is a daily battle against an atmosphere that actively tries to dehydrate, burn, and suffocate human life. Living here requires you to sacrifice the very concept of convenience, trading an easy life for a deeply complicated survival. It demands a level of resilience that eventually hardens the soul, making it difficult to ever truly fit back into normal society. The ultimate price of Coober Pedy is that once it gets into your blood, you can never truly be at peace anywhere else. Living at the absolute edge of human habitation forces a person into a profound, unavoidable philosophical epiphany. You quickly realize that true wealth has absolutely nothing to do with the glowing, expensive stones pulled from the dirt. The real luxury of Coober Pedy is not the money. It is the absolute freedom from the superficial expectations of the modern world. When you remove the traffic, the advertising, the social posturing, and the endless noise of the city, your mind finally stops racing. You discover that human connection is infinitely more valuable than material possessions when you rely on your neighbors for basic survival. The extreme environment burns away anxiety about the future, forcing you to exist completely and fiercely in the present moment. You learn that the human spirit is remarkably elastic, capable of adapting to conditions that initially seem completely unsurvivable. The isolation teaches you that loneliness and solitude are two entirely different concepts, and mastering solitude brings immense inner peace. Staring up at the Milky Way from a town with no streetlights, you finally understand exactly how small you are in the universe. This realization does not create fear. It creates a profound, liberating sense of relief from the heavy burden of modern ego. When outsiders from major global cities look at Coober Pedy, they often see only what the town is visibly missing. They see the lack of green parks, the missing luxury coffee shops, and the terrifying absence of immediate convenience. But the locals look back at the city dwellers and clearly see everything that modern society has tragically and irreversibly lost. In the rush to build comfortable, climate-controlled megacities, we completely sacrificed the raw, primal connection to the earth itself. We traded genuine, interdependent community survival for the cold, isolating convenience of food delivery apps and anonymous apartment buildings. We lost the ability to sit in total, uninterrupted silence, constantly needing screens and noise to distract us from our own thoughts. We sacrificed extreme self-reliance, becoming hopelessly dependent on fragile supply chains and massive corporations to keep us alive. We paved over the wild, untamed spaces, desperately trying to conquer nature instead of learning how to respectfully submit to it. We lost the specific type of freedom that only exists when there is absolutely nobody around to tell you what to do. The people of Coober Pedy are not the ones who are missing out. They are the ones holding on to the very things we threw away. Which brings us back to the central question we asked when we first arrived in this brutal, sun-scorched wasteland. Why would thousands of people choose to live like moles in the harshest, most unforgiving desert on the face of the earth? Initially, they came for the glittering promise of sudden wealth, chasing the elusive, colorful stones buried deep in the bedrock. But the opals are merely the excuse they use to justify staying. The real reason is far more complex and deeply psychological. They stay because this town is the ultimate sanctuary for outcasts, a place where the broken and the strange are completely accepted. They stay because the extreme hardship creates a deep, undeniable sense of purpose that simply does not exist in a comfortable suburb. They stay because the heavy, profound silence of the underground provides a mental peace they could not find anywhere else. They stay because the isolation forces them into a genuine, authentic community that modern society has completely forgotten how to build. They stay because surviving here proves every single day that they are stronger than the environment trying to destroy them. Ultimately, they live in the dirt because it is the only place left where they can be truly, completely, and unapologetically free. The future of Coober Pedy is incredibly uncertain, balancing precariously on shifting economic markets and an increasingly hostile global climate. Yet, there is a fierce, stubborn hope deeply embedded in the bedrock of this town, a refusal to simply fade into history. The younger generation is slowly returning, bringing new technology to map the underground while respecting the ancient traditions of the old masters. They are transforming the town into a pioneer of renewable energy survival, proving that extreme off-grid living is actually highly sustainable. They are learning how to balance the financial necessity of modern tourism with the intense desire to protect their weird, gritty culture. New subterranean homes are still being carved out of the rock, not just as temporary mining camps, but as permanent, beautifully designed architectural marvels. The local school continues to teach children from 40 different nations how to survive, adapt, and respect the harshness of the outback. The knowledge of the old miners is finally being documented, ensuring that their incredible history of endurance will never be forgotten. Coober Pedy is evolving from a desperate, lawless frontier camp into a highly sophisticated, permanent monument to human resilience. As long as there is red dirt, scorching sun, and people desperate for absolute freedom, this underground city will continue to thrive. Coober Pedy is a place that fundamentally challenges every single assumption you have about what it means to build a good life. It teaches us that comfort is highly overrated and that genuine happiness often requires a significant amount of voluntary suffering. It reminds us that humanity does not need to conquer nature to survive. We merely need to learn how to adapt to its rules. It proves that even in the darkest, most oppressive environments, humans possess an incredible capacity to create warmth, community, and light. The era of the wild, independent prospector may be slowly coming to an end, fading into the dust of the Australian Outback. The town will inevitably change, modernizing and shifting as the relentless forces of the outside world slowly seep into the underground. But the spirit of the people who dug this city out of the rock will remain permanently etched into the sandstone walls. They are the ultimate survivors, a community of stubborn misfits who looked at the most hostile environment on Earth and called it home. When the rest of the world becomes too loud, too crowded, and too complicated, the underground will always be waiting in perfect silence. It is a testament to the fact that sometimes the only way to truly survive the surface is to completely disappear beneath it. The brutal outback sun sinks below the flat horizon, instantly plunging the massive, cracked landscape into deep, freezing darkness. The screaming wind finally dies down, leaving behind a silence so absolute and heavy that it feels like the end of the world. Suddenly, a single, solitary beam of warm yellow light cuts through the darkness, illuminating a small patch of dusty red earth. An old miner, covered in the ancient dust of the earth, slowly turns his back on the vast, terrifying emptiness of the surface. He pulls a heavy metal door shut behind him, completely severing his connection to the hostile world above, and quietly descending back into the dark.